Welcome back to the Sacred Arts Academy channel, where we talk about all things from the sacred to the practical. Today, I'm really excited to have Gabriel Pimstone um, on our podcast today. She has spent 27 years in a corporate psychology career before a fortuitous encounter with a podcast redirected the trajectory of her life. She has since embraced the role of an energy coach dedicated to assisting individuals experiencing burnout and feelings of stagnation. Gabriel specializes in teaching potent energy techniques that incorporate advanced sacred geometry, facilitating healing and guiding individuals through significant life transitions. Her goal is to empower people to live with a renewed sense of purpose and passion. I really love this. So welcome, Gabriel.
Thank you so much, Jessie. When you speak like that, I think to myself, advanced sacred geometry. How do I even talk about that? Because it all sounds so fancy. But but I'm really looking forward to talking about it. But thank you for the introduction. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'd like to get just a little bit of
Mm.
a background. To me, your background is so fascinating because it reflects my own story. I have a master's in psychology. I was in corporate America for such a long time. So I love to hear your story in how ingrained you were in in the corporate world, and how did you make that transition into energy coaching?
I was very ingrained. It's such a great question, and I'd love to hear your story as well. But very ingrained. It was my whole identity, actually. And part of the work that I was doing in my own therapeutic process with my therapist was to disconnect emotionally from my career because it had taken over. From a very, very young age, Jassy, I've been uh, really curious about personal development. And I even remember it was about 8 years old, having my first really potent dream and getting swept away by it. It was actually a really frightening dream for me. And I remember waking up as a young child with this dream, and I was terrified. But even though I was scared of it, I actually leaned into it and I took out my journal, sat on my windowsill, and I just started documenting the dream. And what I found when I documented it was there was a cathartic process. I didn't understand what the dream was about. I hadn't learned how to make sense of my dreams yet, but it was cathartic and it got me on this path to personal mastery, self mastery. And then my dad passed away when I was 9. And, grief often pushes people to explore avenues for coping. And that got me really well into psychology. But spirituality was loitering in the background the whole time because after my dad died, maybe a year later or so, I said to my mom, I wanted to go and see a medium. And she was outright, no, you can't do that. So I moved into the field of psychology in a very big way. And I had a career in it for, nearly 3 decades. I loved it. And then what happened was I had an inflection point in my life in 2020, and the tried and tested psychological methods that I'd always been, used to get me through tough times didn't work anymore. And that got me onto a different path. Plus, I heard a podcast, and the confluence of all of that came together to move me, bring spirituality front and center into my world.
Mm, I love
Mm.
that. It so resonates my own story. And, so often we're taught that, seeking out mediumship or, tapping into our spirituality is a huge no-no. And it comes from our ancestry DNA. And that fear is really embedded in our epigenetics. And so I'm wondering how were you able to like move through being so ingrained in your corporate job and then moving into this energy coaching? Can you tell us a little bit about the backstory
Yes.
there?
The backstory was there was I was in a job that I hated. I was in a senior leadership role in a bank. You can't get more vanilla than that. And I was in like working with risk in a bank. So it was very, very vanilla. And I hated it. I was stressed. I'd lost the essence of myself. I was kind of going through the motions, and it had been creeping up on me for about a year or two. It's like my work wasn't blowing my hair back anymore. And on Sunday morning, it was the 9th of August, 2020, woke up and I felt sick. I just felt like I don't want to get out of bed. I was like overcome with anxiety. The next day was Monday, so I started getting the Sunday blues at like 7 in the morning. And I took myself for a walk and I listened to a podcast, which is why I love podcasts so much. It turned me around. The woman was talking, she was being interviewed. She had almost lost her daughter, like, I don't know, 10 years before. Her daughter had been in a really bad car accident. And this poor young woman was, she had to learn to walk again. But 10 years later or so, she had a full recovery. She was expecting a baby. This woman being interviewed was going to be a grandmother for the first time, and she couldn't enjoy the moment. She was always waiting for the other shoe to fall. And when I heard those words, I was like, that's me. And I can't live with this anxiety anymore. So I actually resigned from that job the next day, but it took me about 18 more months to get really into it because I trained up, spent 18 months learning how to work with energy and becoming an energy practitioner. So it was actually a podcast that got me on this path for good. So, which is why I guest all the time now, because I think podcasts have a transformational effect. So
Yeah.
that's what got me into it. Yeah.
That's incredible. I've always been of the belief that sharing our story and doing it in in any medium, whether it's Instagram, on a blog post, whatever the case may be, people that need to hear it will find it. And if you resonate with it, it's a sign, right? There's something there for us to learn, or it's something that's being mirrored to us that we need.
Yes, yes. And in actual fact, I was talking to another podcast host the other day, and he asked me, have you gone back to the producers of that podcast and let them know how profound it was? And I said, no, I haven't, but I'm going to. Um, so I will. So, yeah, I think storytelling is the most profound way to heal, grow, and it goes back centuries. It's an age. I'm actually originally from Africa, and it's an age-old tradition there. So I'm really into it.
Oh, I love that. Now,
Mm.
in the beginning, we mentioned sacred geometry. Can you tell me a little bit about your history with sacred geometry? What is it, and how have you been able to kind of build your energy coaching with that modality?
Yeah. Okay, great question. So actually, I didn't know anything about it until I started studying. And I didn't start studying because I wanted to learn about sacred geometry. I started studying energy because I was stuck and I needed a different modality to help me move forward. So I learned about it, and it is what makes or breaks an effective energy practitioner. So basically, what it is if you think about the universe or the nature, the human body, you see these perfect geometric shapes found everywhere. Galileo referred to sacred geometry as the alphabet used by God to design the universe. It's known as the universal language. So an example would be looking at snowflake. That's a great example. That there's a perfect, it's divine proportions, dimensions, and there are lots of those examples. Like looking into the middle of a flower, you see animals with perfect geometric shapes all over them. Inside the human body, we've got our DNA is this perfect spiral. Our cells are spherical. And each of these geometries, you can have really simple geometries like a sphere, but you can also get really sacred, very complex and advanced sacred geometries. An example for your listeners might know would be like Metatron's cube or the Sri Yantra. Now, each sacred geometry has got divine proportions and divine ratios. And as a result of that, they house a specific frequency that can be used for different kinds of healings and different kinds of things. Now, advanced sacred geometries, when it's more complex patterns, and also when you start layering one geometry onto each other, and the compounding effect on that is that the more you layer, the more potent the frequency and the healing is. So, what they do and how they support the work that I do as an energy coach and working with my clients and healing them is that they act as an adapter. They've got divine intelligence, they've got divine proportions and frequency. And when you use them, and there are different ways of using them, sometimes you can draw them into you, sometimes you can put them around you, whatever the case may be. However you use them, you don't, as a human being with finite energy, don't have to house the energy that's coming through, that's being channeled, because the sacred geometry does it for you. And so what that means is, firstly, more love and light can come in that you would ordinarily be able to channel as a human being without that kind of support. But also, you don't get as tired as a healer. You've got more in your tank because you're not drawing on your own energy, you're drawing on divine energy. So that's how it helps and supports.
I love the idea of, the way that you kind of explained it. I kind of envision it of it being over your aura or over your electromagnetic field, and having you kind of having that kind of power, the energy healing that you're doing. That sounds really powerful.
That's one way. So, if you put it over your energetic field, like as far as your aura, there's, it does a particular thing, but I actually find it is a lot more, if you put it in and expand it, you actually embody it, which is actually a lot more potent and powerful. But when I work with my clients, I'll put it over them. I won't get them to embody it because they haven't got the energetic capacity yet. You've got to work up to that, right? So it's exceptionally powerful. And most people know about Reiki, and I've never done Reiki, but people I've studied with have done Reiki, and Reiki uses symbols. This is different. This is advanced sacred geometry. It's like, what does the Metatron's cube do? Let's use it. What does Sri Lanka do? What does the tree of life do? What does the flower of life? All those really complex structures. It's too beautiful to even describe.
Mm.
Mm,
I love that because I am a Reiki practitioner. And as you
yeah.
were describing it earlier, I was like, oh, it's a lot like the Seiheki or the Shokurei, which is used in
Yes.
Reiki, which are very powerful symbols. I love the idea of integrating, like the flower of life, for rebirth and to power up the healing that one is doing, whether it's for yourself or for a client, which is really beautiful.
It's beautiful. And actually, the flower of life has become my signature sacred geometry, because when I was at my level 3 live event in Colorado, I kept seeing this. I was on sacred land, and I kept seeing every day this orb presented itself to me. And the first day, it was like a gold disc in my throat chakra. I didn't know it initially, but then I saw it in photos. And then, like the next day, it started going a little bit greener. And then the third day, it started showing me geometric patterns. Fourth day, the geometric patterns became more pronounced, and fifth day it was like, okay, it's showing me the flower of life. And so I've been able to and then I was seeing it with my eyes, and it was dancing in front of me. I've got videos. It's just magnificent. So that's become a go-to geometry for me in most of my healings.
Wow. That's
It's cool.
incredible. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, it was very special, really special.
When it comes to your energy coaching, can you tell us a little bit about the other types of modalities? How is that path growing for you?
Well, I I use two modalities. I bring psychology and energy work, I fuse it together because I've got so many years of psychology. I can't kind of just can't leave me. And also, it's really important as part of the coaching process to help the client understand what they're dealing with. You know, it's one thing to clear what's tripping them up, but it's really useful for them to understand what it is that we're clearing. So I bring both of those. I called it almost like a fusion of East meets West. It's like dealing with contemporary psychological challenges, but within a spiritual framework. That's how I do it. I love mixing things up. I'm a huge believer in, being eclectic and drawing from different disciplines. I think it only enriches the healing process. And then also, I'm a coach. I'm a actual coach, a certified coach. So I bring all of that modality in, which is the capacity for my clients to reflect. I also use feedback as a powerful tool in my coaching because I think it just opens up the blind spots. It just goes there, and obviously do it in a loving way. And, I'm very pragmatic. I do work up in the ethers, but my clients experience pragmatic, like I teach them practical ways to manage and master their energy. And I think that that's also where the rubber hits the road, the ability to translate this really groovy, lofty stuff we do into practical how-tos for our clients.
I absolutely agree because that's exactly how I see the world. Like I love the groundedness and the ethics of psychology and everything that that gives us from an educational purpose, but it doesn't really bring the holistic part of it, which is the spiritual side and the energetics and really getting into the nitty-gritty of that. And it sounds like you really mend or meld the both
Yes,
together
I
to
do.
provide a holistic experience for people. That's beautiful.
It feels that way, yes. And then when I work with groups, I'm also a accredited group facilitator. So I'm a Jungian facilitator. So I bring kind of Jungian principles into it, and we work with dreams and we do all groovy things. It's wonderful. It's nice.
Oh, I
Nice to have
love that.
yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a toolkit you can pick from.
Yeah, for sure. Because not everybody's going to need the same modalities or the same thing. Everybody has completely different experiences and completely different needs. And so to be able to listen to somebody and understand, like, okay, these are kind of some of the tools that I have that will go perfectly with what they need in their life and in this moment of their developmental stage is a beautiful thing instead of providing the same kind of modalities over and over. It's just not going to work for every person. So I love that you tailor
100%.
that.
Well said, Jessie. I agree with that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm curious to know about what are some of the common challenges that individuals face when going through, major life transitions, and how do you teach or help them overcome some of these challenges?
Yeah, a really great question. I think the most important, I mean, transitions, human transformation, life changes are stressful. They're uncertain times. We go through ups and downs. We go through the valley of despair. We go through the dark night of the soul. You generally go through a very, very disruptive period before things start, stabilizing. And by transitions, I mean career changes, getting out of a relationship or into a new relationship, moving continent, city, or anything, right? And so what it's really important to be able to master your energy, because when your vibration is high, okay, and that's ultimately what I'm always working to do with my clients. When it's high, you need resilience, right? So when you're vibrating high, you do much more than just bounce back from adversity. You actually rise above adversity. It doesn't affect you as much. And so that's why mastering your energy from a resilience perspective is such a crucial skill for navigating transformation or life transitions. It's like you're on a different wavelength, you're on a different frequency, and what would ordinarily have pulled you down for days either dips you very quickly or you don't dip at all. And I think that's an important skill when you're transitioning in life.
Hmm. Well said. Do you have any tips or any recommendations where people can start to kind of elevate their frequency and start to kind of practice
Yeah.
this elevation?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you don't need to be an energy master to start mastering your energy. And there are so many practical and simple things that you can do that will align with your lifestyle, if you're busy, and also if you're not really that interested in going too deep in the topic. So, and I can think of a million things. Okay, here's a daily practice that I personally do every day and that I do teach people what to do. One thing that I find really helpful to guide my energy and the focus of my energy for the day is when I wake up in the morning, pick one word that's going to tune in to what you might need, and pick one word, a simple word, but that's going to have really sacred meaning for you. And let that word guide you throughout the day and remind you where to put your focus and energy. So, for example, when I woke up this morning and I tuned in, my word today is allow. Allow, ALLOW. Simple word, but it's got profound meaning for me today, because what it's doing, what I'm focusing on today, is surrender. And so when I find myself trying to control something a little bit too much, it's just that word allow. And so that's a really simple, very simple tactic for directing and focusing your energy. You can also do the simple practice and, set an alarm a few times a day and sit for 30 seconds and tune into your energy and ask, is it expanded or is it contracted? Just those simple questions 2 or 3 times a day really helps interrupt kind of dips. And so there are such simple, such pragmatic things that you can do to become aware of your energy and to keep it on the right track. I mean, yeah, those are the simplest things. And then you can go a little bit, you could run a bath, for example, and play solfeggio, maybe 5 to 8 frequency or higher love-based frequency. And you can dedicate your bath to healing, because water transmits energy and it really amplifies healing. So you could do something like that. Or before you go to sleep at night, you could set an intention. I'm really big on healing during sleep, to set a heartfelt intention. Tonight as I sleep, help me release what is keeping my vibration low, so that I can wake up tomorrow morning feeling renewed and invigorated. You can set that intention before you go to sleep. There's so many practical things you can do.
I love these easy,
Easy.
these all of these don't take a lot of time. You don't have to carve out a whole hour to do. It just sounds so simple and yet so effective.
Very.
And it's so
Yes.
interesting because about like an hour or two ago, I was sitting with a group and we were talking about a 2-syllable word for as a mantra for meditation. So this is coming up again for me. So it sounds like it's something I have to look into. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, words are powerful, or
Yeah.
2 syllable. Actually, yeah. Allow. It is two
Allow.
syllables.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do it
I
every day. Yeah.
That's
So,
incredible. And I love the
mm,
meaning behind it. It's like a reminder of surrender and trust, which is something that I am working on. Um, and I can think of a few other words that would raise my vibrations and kind of just bring me back into alignment, into that focus for the day, which is so amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
oh, you're welcome. You're really welcome. Yeah. I mean, the other thing I've done is I have made a card deck of it's about 100 cards, and I've taken all my big aha moments and I've captured them into sound bites, mantras. And I'm not doing it now, but there are times where I pick a card and I read it, and then it becomes my focus for the day as well. It's exciting.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great
Mm.
idea.
Mm. Yeah.
You mentioned resilience earlier, and I'm wondering, what role does resilience play in the process of accelerating transformation, particularly when individuals are navigating those major life transitions?
It's everything. It's absolutely everything. And resilience is, it's made up of so many kind of micro skills. Simple skill like asking for help is really integral to resilience. Community and getting support through connection and community is another kind of leg of resilience. So is living in alignment with your values and your purpose. And, this, so it's absolutely everything. There is, the way that I define resilience is it's not that physical, you feel exhausted, but it's not a physical phenomenon. It's actually a psychological phenomenon where what's happening in your life, the demands of the situation exceed your capacity to deal with it. And so when we're going through these transitions, we can't control the demands on us because life's happening. All we can control is our capacity to deal with them, which is why mastering your energy is so important, because it kind of expands your cup, for lack of a better word. It's
Mm.
essential. It's essential. As is self-care. I talk a lot about self-care. It's another big thing to amplify and focus on when you're going through life transitions. It's a simple practice, but it has powerful effects.
It is, I feel like it is so important because last year I really stepped up my self-care game in terms of like really making the time to focus on myself, to put myself first, especially because I was dealing with grief. And it did wonders for me because in the times when I was faced with adversity, or I was faced with a major change, or I was faced with confrontation or some sort of resistance, it was a lot easier for me to get out of the downward spiral and back into the upward spiral of being in contentment and happiness and really in peace. Like I still have so much like self peace within me because I've kind of shored up the importance of like my self-care. And it doesn't mean like going and doing my nails or massages. It was literally just sitting with myself and feeling my emotions, sitting with Mother Nature and matching her resonance, like really taking time to go inward and becoming what I always tell people, like, you got to become a self-care expert for yourself,
Oh,
because having the different, because yoga is not for everybody. I thought yoga was my thing, and I was like, this just makes me feel worse. And so I started to experiment with like breath work and different types of meditations and prayer and walking in nature, like literally going to the ocean and being with the ocean, and in the forest, taking forest baths and things like that. And so I tried all of these different things, and then I made a decision on, yes, this works for me. No, this doesn't work for me. And
yeah.
then just really getting really clear on that and being like, these are the things that I need to do on a daily basis to be able to then build that resilience or build myself up to be able to face any adversity.
Absolutely. And I love what you're saying, Jassy, about like it's just there's so many different categories of self-care. What floats one person's boat sinks another. For me, and like you've just said, going solitude is your sense of self-care, not in the sense of loneliness, but in the sense of going within. And for other people, that would be the worst thing they could do. They need to phone a friend and talk and connect. And for me, my favorite self-care practice is learning, actually. When I'm feeling at my worst, I listen to a podcast. I read a book. I read an article. I inform myself. And that's a huge form. It's like mental self-care. I would put it into that category. And it really, it does it for me. The other thing is exercise. Exercise kind of shifts, moves energy around, and nature, I'm big into nature. I think
Mhm.
the elements have incredible healing power. And yeah, I love what you're
It's
saying about
really,
walking out in
yeah.
nature. Mm.
It's really interesting because the more I spend time with nature, the more animals would approach me, or I would have like it seems weird, but I would have like conversations with trees and just like the movement of nature itself. Like I felt so connected and I felt so in tune. And in turn, that somehow filled my cup, if that makes sense.
It makes infinite sense to me, infinite sense. I put animals in the category of nature as well. You know, animals are incredible, especially pets, and they have the capacity to transmute energy, which is why if you're feeling rubbish and, not great, and you hug a dog or you hug your cat or whatever it is, you actually feel physiologically, you feel better. They transmute energy for you.
Mm,
And it's interesting because the elementals, like I actually bring them in to my healing as well. Not in the physical sense of lighting a flame, but I work with earth energy, water energy, fire energy, and wind energy.
mm.
And through intention, I bring them in different ways, in different moments in a healing. And it's magnificent. Yeah.
I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so amazing.
Mhm.
We talked a little bit about energy mastery and how we don't all need to master, be a master in energy to start working with it. Can you tell us a little bit about how even paying attention to your energy or having some sort of knowledge on your own energy, how does that contribute to having more balance in your life?
Wow. Okay. That's such a great question. When you're working with your energy, I personally, I work a lot with the chakra system, and we're talking the same language. And it's really important. Energy blocks sit in our chakras, and they're either, the chakra is either there's an excess of something, they're too large, or there's too little of something, so it's too small. And the goal of working with energy is to balance all the chakras. They're all the same size, they're all spinning in the same direction. And so it's when you are working on your energy, you are inadvertently balancing out your chakras, which is all about greater energetic flow, greater balance. It's absolutely essential to the game. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Mm,
couldn't agree more.
mm,
I think that it is the missing element in society in general, globally. Maybe not globally, because there's certain countries that do focus on it and do teach, children how to, take care of our energy centers. But in the West, I think that that is a huge piece. It's why there's so many sick people, so many obese people, so many people in anxiety and just
agree.
in sadness. And I think by having a little bit of perspective or even podcasts like these to help people kind of have a different perspective on taking care of our energy centers. We don't have to necessarily go to somebody to be able to clear those out, but it definitely does help, by educating ourselves in these energy centers and understanding how to take care of our energy. It's just it is life changing.
It's it really is life changing. I absolutely agree with you about Western society. I mean, I live in a Western country. I live in Australia, and what I am noticing though is what's so fascinating to me is more men are coming to ask for my services, which is they seeking more balance, often because it's all been about work and their relationship, for example, has petered out. Too much of anything is actually not good. I would say too much of, I'm going to say something controversial, too much joy is probably has a detrimental element to it, even though we're in pursuit of it, because you do need a measure of suffering to grow and elevate. Too much peace is probably also not a great thing because um, kind of almost kind of robotic. You've got to feel the ups and downs of life in order to have empathy and all of those good things. So anything in excess, even the good stuff, needs to be balanced out. And that's why I think energetically in life, great periods are followed by not so great periods. And then when you're in the bottom of the barrel, it's followed by periods of grace. It's a constant balancing out. I
It's
think
so
balance is
true.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I constantly tell people, like, I think there's three things that I think are really important in life. One, it is balance. Everything from like food, if we eat too little or we eat too much, sex, joy, love, sadness, like it's all like everything needs to be in the middle, right?
In
Our
harmony.
egos, we can go from one side, and then not having an ego at all can also be very detrimental. So you have to come to the middle. The second thing is life in general, whether you are intending it or not, is all around intention. Your
All about
intention
it.
are so powerful, whether you know it or not. Right. And then the third thing is life is ever changing. So if you are really happy, at some point you're going to come down. It's kind of like the infinity symbol. You're going to come down and be really sad at some point. But know that when you are sad and at the rock bottom, you're going to come back up. It's ever changing. There's like this infinity circle going around in our lives because we're meant to experience all the ups and downs, like you said. And nothing ever stays the same. Nothing, everything
Nothing.
is ever changing.
Yes. My mother had a mantra when I was going through my teenage years, and I was up and down, and always I had a childhood sweetheart, and we were always breaking up and, fighting. And she said to me, everything shifts, nothing stays the same. Life shifts, and that's an absolute given. Jassy, what was your the second truth? It resonated, and it's just gone out of my mind. You said balance, and then the infinity. What was the one in the middle?
Intention.
Intention is everything. In the energy world, it's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Even if you're not in the energy world. Like I see it with my parents, and even like growing up, like the stories they would tell themselves, it would just go out and happen. And it was like, you see, I knew it. And I would think like, did you know it or did you will it? Right. The more and
Exactly.
more I played with that, it was like, no, you willed it because you really believed that.
That's right.
Like, and to me, intention is everything. And whether you're doing ceremony or you're doing something at work, like whatever your intention is for the day, if you think, you mentioned the Sunday blues earlier, like if you think the week is gonna suck, guess what? The week is
The
gonna
week will suck.
suck.
That's true. It's true. Can I share a story about intention that's very
Absolutely, yes.
recent with you? Um, Actually, my ex-boyfriend, he and I are still really friendly. And he messaged me the other day, and he said to me, oh, he sent me this thing that I think's gone a bit viral. It's about intention setting. There's an exercise, and he said, try it. Let's both do it and see what happens. So the exercise is just before you go to sleep at night. You're in state, you're about to drop off. Just imagine that there is a balloon in front of you, a balloon. And just imagine it, build it in your mind's eye, and then feel into the balloon. Almost you can smell, that latex kind of smell it, feel the texture, just use all your senses to actually feel into the balloon as if it was right in front of you, and go to sleep. And then when you wake up the next day, see how many balloons you see. Okay. Now you could do that with any object, I guess, but the woman on this clip was talking about a balloon because we don't see them very often. So he said to me, do this. And then I said, okay, let's do it tonight. And then I completely forgot about it, but we had a conversation. So I had the intention to do it and to see balloons the following day. And I forgot about it at night. The next morning, I woke up and my social media posts were full of balloons, and I hadn't even done it. And that's the power of sometimes you don't even have to set the intention formally for the intention to be set in motion. And I just thought that was crazy.
That is incredible. I
All
really
over. Yeah.
love that. I'm gonna give it a try.
Give it a
They
try.
they say magic happens in the theta state, and right before you fall asleep, you're in automatically in theta, and so it's the perfect time to set intentions. And I love this
It
little
really is.
exercise because you could really do it with anything, right? You could do it with a rose, you could do it with things that you don't normally see, and just see what happens.
Exactly, exactly. And then the next, with the intention that they'll manifest in your life the next day. I can't, the entire day, my entire social media were posts about balloons. I've never seen anything like it.
That's so cool. I love
Mm, it is cool.
that.
But the thing with, you call it theta, we call it theta. I learned how to go into theta state. And it is it's that at that state where it's more than meditation. It's almost like hypnotic, like you're being hypnotized. It's the best place, best time to set intentions, because it's like you can see what's going on, you can feel, but you're sitting behind the scene that's playing out and you're kind of observing it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting to purposely go into that state and to also stay awake during that state because the next state is delta and you could
Exactly.
easily
You
flip
get knocked
into
out.
that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I do like playing in theta and yeah, I often say that's the best time to pray is when you're in theta state. It's
Yes.
really incredible.
Yes.
So I'm curious to know, where can people find you? Do you have any upcoming events or anything you'd like to share with the audience?
Yes, well, they can find me on Instagram, Gabrielle.Pimstone. I do have a Facebook page, but I'm not that active on it, although I do get alerts. If I'm very responsive to DM, so they can contact me there. Um, it's interesting you say that I'm moving into. I'm actually about to launch this product that I actually channeled it. It's the most incredible product, I think. I've got this absolute quest for ongoing learning and development, but not everybody's wired that way. Most people want to sort out a problem and move on from it. So it kind of got me thinking about what's the optimal way that I can support people who have that need, but also help them, not just a once off. And I thought back in my life, the times in my life where I've had the most transformation is when I've picked one issue in my life, one issue that's most prevalent, and I've spent 28 days pouring love, healing, conscious awareness into that issue. And I have healed two of my biggest issues doing it that way: anxiety and grief. And so I've set up this container, and it's a group container, small group, nice and cozy, where people can come in and work in a very focused way on that one thing that's tripping them up the most. And in my own experience, it's not only possible, but it's probable that you resolve that issue for good when you pour all your love and energy, and obviously my healings, um, and the tools that I give you into it. So it's 28 days to healing is the program. I'm actually finishing the landing page today. And yeah, I might just send you the link and get, if people want to go there. What I do is I always set up a complimentary visioning call. It's obligation free. You can join the program afterwards or not. But at the very worst thing that can happen is you sit with me for half an hour. I help you get clear on what's tripping you up, um, get clear on the goals, and give you a path forward. So, so I'll send you the link to that as well, so that
Yeah.
people, if they want just to have a chat with me, can get hold of me that way.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that offering. I know that it's very well needed in the world, and I will definitely link that landing page down below.
Great. That's wonderful, Jessie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom with our audience. It has been really enlightening and actually very validating for me. So thank you for sharing. And to our audience, if you really enjoyed this episode, give us a review down below. Let us know what you thought. And even with just an emoji, it says a lot. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. So when you join my Patreon, you get the uncut version of each episode. And we go a lot deeper. For example, on this one, at the end, I talk about my recent awakening and my relation to the Black Jaguar. You get to catch the conversations before and after with each guest. And you get so many bonus types of content. So just for $3 a month, you support the podcast and you help us move forward with interviewing more guests and learning on this journey. So join my Patreon to support.